This might be recording upside down, which will be a first. I'm curious if you guys will be able to see this okay. If not, no big deal, okay? I will try to get it as close as I can. This right here is my work area. What I'm going to do for this demonstration, I'm going to just use a laptop to put my drawing on. Okay, by that, I'm going to just take my drawing to the laptop, because the big thing here is it needs to be taped down. Ryan, get me a blank piece of paper out of the box over there. And just the other box, Ryan, right over there by the door. You need a piece of tape, which is over there. The list of tools is posted right over on the wall by the tools. And right by the window is, yep, that's good. And then can you point to the list of tools right by the tools that shows what they all need? Okay, right there posted on the wall by the window. There is a list that says these are the tools you need. There's 7 things on there: T-square, triangle, and the pink sheet, the green sheet. Normally you will be taping this down to your desk, but since I don't have room up here on my desk, and since I'm doing it on the overhead, I'm going to just tape it to this laptop, okay? I made a custom-made T-square to just do these demonstrations for this reason, okay? So, when you tape it down, take note of this. You want to tape it in the upper left corner of your desk, okay? Unless you're left-handed, then you go in the upper right, okay? So, it shows you that in the book, the picture of where you should put it. We're going to be referring to this pink sheet a lot. What I want you to do to start with, the first few drawings are just going to be practice. So if you mess up, do not start over. You don't even have to do a bunch of erasing, because we're just practicing on the first 3 drawings, okay? And don't make it any harder than what it is. All we're really doing is doing 3 views of this block, okay? If I asked you to trace around this, you could do that no problem, right? If you are not paying attention, you will get a choice card, okay? If you're goofing around, you got a choice card. End of story. Especially when I'm filming and when I'm trying to demonstrate this, okay? We're doing 3 views of this block: a top view, a front view, and a side view, okay? Is there anyone that doesn't understand that? Because, some people go, what are we drawing? Well, we start. Even if you're going to be an engineer, you start by drawing these little blocks, okay? So if that's all you get, that's fine, okay? To make things a little more complicated, they ask you to put a border around your drawing. A border is like a picture frame, okay? It is an entire border around the drawing, a 1/2 inch in, okay? The drawings that you guys are going to be doing is drawing number 1. I believe it's on, is it page 135? If you still have your book open around that area, go to page 135, and you'll notice that's the same as what are on this sheet, okay? Except even better than that, it's in probably a little bit clearer. It's got the colors of the side that you're missing, okay? Remember how I said there's those different sides? So, for instance, here they are: blue, red, and green. The first drawing gives you the top view, the blue one, and the side view, and you have to come up with the third view, the red one. Is that correct? Okay, so they give you this. You come up with a third view by transferring the lines down or projecting them over. That is why it's called an orthographic projection. Okay, so we're going to draw the 3 views of that object. The other directions, don't worry too much about it if you don't get them right at first. The other directions are basically getting in the center of your paper, okay, so that it is centered nicely on your page, which is what architects and engineers do, okay? On the pink sheet, it says step 1, border and title block. Page 73 shows how to do the correct border and the title block. It's basically a 1/2 inch border. That would be like a 1/2 inch picture frame, so you'll halfway on all 4 sides. This is what you would use your ruler for. Okay, I measured a 1/2 inch on all 4 sides, and that's like a picture frame. Okay, once you do that border, you do not do anything outside of that. And you draw very light to begin with, and then you can come back and darken it later. Okay, 1/2 inch border. My T-square is tight against the edge of the laptops, what I'm using here. This is not what they consider computer-aided drafting or computer-assisted drafting. Just because I'm using the computer to use my T-square does not make it computer-aided or computer-assisted drafting. Okay? I make a 1/2 inch border all the way around all 4 sides. Are you with me still? Okay, I've made a frame to put my drawing in. Okay? The bottom part here, it has a thing called a title block with all the information on it. Okay? For right now, there's a lot of little technical informations you don't really need to know. Challenge yourself though. If you think you get it, then do the title block. Okay? You all should be able to put a title block at the bottom of your desk or at the bottom of your drawing with, at least it says that it's a 1/2 inch title block, and then it talks about where the lines are, like the top space is 16th, the other ones are an 1/8, and there's like 4 lines in there. That's probably more information than what you need to put in your title block. Those lines in there are very light. They're called guidelines, so that they guide your lettering, so that you can write your name in there and the date and all that information. Okay? And it says on the pink sheet that that's in the book, which I'm just telling you right now, it's also at the bottom of that pink sheet. It says that the title block is a 1/2 inch total. The guidelines are on the small marks on the ruler. Okay? Don't worry about it if that's too difficult for you to remember. Okay? Just put your name at the bottom inside a title block. And next, on my pink sheet, it says border and title block, page 73 in the book. Don't go there. Right now I want you paying attention to the drawing we're doing on 135. Step 2, centering box. Centering box is the box on here that we make so that the object will be centered on the page. We don't want it all the way in the lower left corner or upper right or sides. We want it in the middle so it looks centered. Does that make sense? Okay? And there's a whole procedure in the book showing you how to find that centering point. You read through it. How many of you understood it when they went through all those dimensions and all those numbers and said, this is where you go? It's kind of confusing. I think this works better. I just tell you, you take this centering box, measure how big the views of the object are. They are 7.5 inches. And if you measure across inside your borders, you have 10 inches. So you have an extra 2.5 inches of space. Blank space. So what you do with that is you make, Tyler Dowd, you have a warning, pay attention. You split that in half and you say 2.5, half of that's 1 1/4, so I'm going to put 1 1/4 on this side, and I'm going to put 1 1/4 on this side, 1 1/4, and I'm going to put my views inside there. Okay? Same thing from top to bottom. You measure this up. It comes out 5 inches, 2.5 inches with a 1 inch space between the views, and 1.5 inches. Okay? That equals 5 inches. We have 7 inches inside of our area. So do we want all extra 2 inches at the top or all extra 2 inches at the bottom? No. We want 1 inch at the top and 1 inch at the bottom. And that's where we want our 3 views. Does that make sense to you? Raise your hand if yes. That makes sense. We're going to just put it in the center of the paper. That, I would like eventually for you to be able to figure that out on your own. But to start with, step 2, I have centering box. 1 1/4 on the sides. From that border line, 1 1/4 in, 1 inch on the top and the bottom. And I make that box to put my views in. Okay? I make that box, and you would draw that very light. I'm drawing it dark just so you can see it. The reason you draw it light is because you're going to be erasing part of it. And in the book they talk about different types of lines, like these should really be guidelines, which are very light. Border lines on the outside of the paper are very heavy. They're your darkest lines. Okay, so I've made that box. Now I'm going to put the 3 views of the block in the box. Okay, they give you 2 views. Isn't that right? On that drawing they give you the top and the side. Okay, we're doing drawing 1. I believe it's on page 135 in your book. I believe it's also on this sheet that looks like this, because it's awkward to have your book open the whole time at your desk. Okay? Now, I draw, they give me 2 views here, top view and a side view, and we come up with a 3rd view. So we look at it, we do our measuring. Why don't you get me a ruler out of there, Ryan? I might be confusing you by using this triangle. You want to use the ruler. Okay, thank you. The ruler, and on that, I measure 5 inches. It says that it's 5 inches long with a line where it starts to slope down at 1 inch in. Okay? Now, it's also 1.5 inches thick, so I'm going to measure that depth or thickness of it on the side here. Okay? If it's 1.5 inches thick here, it's going to be 1.5 inches thick down here. It's 2.5 inches tall. So I'm going to go 2.5 inches. I'll go from 2.5 back to 0. I'm just measuring backwards. I'm going to measure up 1/2 inch from there. And some people will say it's easier to do your measuring first and lay out all your measurements first. Some will say do 1 view at a time. Say, okay, I'm going to do my top view now. Okay, I'm going to do my top view here. Okay, see how I changed that line from a center line or a dark line to a construction line light over here? Because I know I'm going to be erasing that part after I measured. It was 5 inches long, put a mark at 5, and 1.5 inches thick. Okay, so I'm going to make these lines, use your T-square, tight on the edge of the desk, here, and here. Okay? How many of you are still with me? I just drew the top view. Okay? Here's a little trick for doing the next view. If I take my 45-degree triangle, which is why they use a 45-degree triangle, and I project a line down here at 45 degrees, where this depth line here, that's 1.5 inches thick, hits this depth line, where they intersect right there, that will transfer, and I had measured it out there, so I know that that's right. That reflects down to here and gives us the 1.5 inch depth, because if it's 1.5 inch thick there, it's also going to be 1.5 inch thick on the side, right? Okay? It would make more sense if they put the side view with the top view right above it like this. But it's going off the paper, right? So they just turn it 90 degrees and put it there, above the front view. Okay? It's 2.5 inches tall here. So I had put a mark there at 2.5. Okay? 2.5 inches tall here, so it's 2.5 inches tall there. There's a line at 1/2 inch up showing where it starts to slope back at an angle. Here, where it starts to slope back at an angle, which is there. Okay, now's the fun part. I go, okay, if that's 5 inches long in the top view, I project a line down, just a light line here. And at that point there, that's the point where it starts to slope back to the point where it slopes back on the top view. And then, at that point, it's just a matter of connecting the lines. Going from there to there. Okay? You erase the extra parts. Like this up here was all just used for construction. Just leave the 3 views. Okay? Normally you draw that light, and when you're done you go back and darken it all. Okay? if you, on the first 2 or 3 drawings, what I want you to do is label the dimensions, okay? Like this dimension here, this is confusing for kids, they call that the width, with a W. That's the width, okay? This one across here, you put a line on there, put a D on that one, that's called the depth. The depth. Okay? Going up here, this is called the what? What is it? Height. It's important, starting tomorrow, you bring 2 pencils every day. Because what I do everything very light to start with, and then I go back and darken it. I didn't do that today, but I normally, I made it darker so you can see it on the projector now. If you don't get this the first time, we record it on the iPad and on the camera to where you can watch it again. We label the views, top, front, all capital letters, nice and neat. How many of you get it? Go, hey, I can do that. You might not get it the first time, but if half of you get it the first time, let's stop that camera. Let's stop this camera.